So we will take it from the incoming, and we will take it way past even the NFL career to the Hall of Fame status of one Reggie Wayne. So I got to say, I don't know these numbers off the top of my head. I will familiarize myself, although I have seen them many times through the years of Reggie Wayne and know his career status and what he accomplished, and certainly watched him play a zillion games with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not going to come from a place of judgment to say he got snubbed, he didn't get snubbed, and I've got a watershed argument to make about it, because I would have to make all sorts of research and comparisons to do that.
Yeah.
Wide receiver position, though, especially in the NFL level, is a very concrete, like running back, where these are the numbers. And sure, there's very much a nuance to the argument, either to detract from the numbers or add to the numbers to say, okay, this guy balled out in the playoffs and Super Bowl, so that should add to the regular season resume, or whatever the case might be, or he played in on offense with all these other options, or whatever it was. So when you look at Reggie Wayne and the Hall of Fame, where do you stand?
I stand on the fact that he got snubbed yet again. Like I tweeted last night, this is someone who I believe should have been in the Hall of Fame multiple years ago at this point. I think maybe there's a little bit of a backlog at wide receiver. In the chat, you got guys talking about Hines Ward, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith Sr. Should also be in, and I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I think that Reggie Wayne also. Go back up to, or all the way down, but over 1,000 catches, 14,000 yards, 82 touchdowns, 200 career games. Like, what are we talking about, guys? I know that number 88 who played for them, is a Hall of Famer, and like Reggie Wayne is also, and it's past due time for that to happen. And, again, I'm not going to say this year or what, he should have been, his production and performance is that of a Hall of Famer. Whether it was 3 years ago, this year, next year, whatever, that's not changing. So he should have been in. And I stand on that. And I believe he's going to get into the Hall of Fame. I don't know why he's being made to wait. Sterling Sharp got in this year, and he was made to wait. I know that his career was cut short because of injury, but he was super duper dominant, and I believe should have already been in. And again, I've told the story on here many times. I'm not going to talk about it again, but I saw all of Sterling Sharp's career because he and Favre and Rodgers are why I hate the Packers. Like, there's generational hate between Chicago and Detroit in terms of athletics, right? Which is interesting for me. Both my parents are from Chicago. So originally, so I would go back to the Southwest side and go hang out with my family from Chicago, or even in our group chat. They're like, oh yeah, this Lions fan over here. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons. Like, yeah. And, their counterparts over in the Windy City. And the Packers did so much that my generation, I don't hate the Bears, because whatever. The Packers were the source of my frustration.
Sure.
So I've seen it with Sterling Sharp. So I say all that to say I understand why he got in. Reggie Wayne should get in, should have already been in, and should get in the future. And if you're looking at those who are first-time eligible next year, you're going to add another Miami Hurricane in at one of the other positions that you mentioned, the third or second all-time leading rusher, Frank Gore. And that's a guy who's a Hall of Famer. And I don't believe he's going to get in first ballot. And I'm not even going to make the argument that Frank Gore should get in first ballot. But that's another guy who's a Hall of Famer. And whether it's in 2026 or 2036 or whatever, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I believe that Reggie Wayne has been overlooked for multiple years. And his time, he's done the work, did the work on the field to be considered a Hall of Famer and, to earn that status. And eventually will be, inducted into that fraternity, although it was not this year. And that is disappointing yet again. And he tweeted out himself, the gif of the shaking fist from Arthur the cartoon. Again, because every year, it's just like, okay, I'm already of that cat. Like, he's not playing anymore. He's older than me. You know what I mean? Like, he was wrapping up his, he was a senior my freshman year at Miami. You know what I mean? Like his rookie year was 0-1. Like he's done the work already. And it is frustrating to see, as I'm sure it is for any other player of the caliber of performance who was not inducted. And if you are a fan of that professional team or their other, college team, like I had a bunch of people, oh, the snub of Torrey Holt and da-da-da-da. I say, you can take up that banner yourself. You don't need me to. I'm not a Rams fan and I'm not an NC State fan. I'm talking about Reggie Wayne. But because I'm talking about Reggie Wayne does not negate the fact that, yeah, like, do you need me to say it? Torrey Holt should be in the Hall of Fame. 10,000%. It's not the case, unfortunately. So, frustrating in general. And, as a Miami alum and fan, and also individually for Reggie Wayne, I'm sure that is just continuing, just to be a thorn in his side until he gets his due recognition.
I used to be more familiar with the Hall of Fame process, but I do believe that there's a limited number of candidates. Of course, there's a selection committee to even form the ballot to a certain extent. Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. That there's just an initial list of whatever players are eligible just based on very standard criteria of length of career, when they retired, and boom. And so you got this massive list of players. And then there's kind of a pre-qualification of the committee sizing it down to a ballot. And then there's the vote. And like you stated, I had this conversation with my son actually just the other day, but concerning the Baseball Hall of Fame, because we were talking about Andrew Jones in particular. And then it turned into as it always does, into, talking about 18 different players.
Well, but Andrew Jones should be in, by the way, one of the greatest, the greatest defensive center fielder of my lifetime. Yes. But, hey,
he should be.
I
absolutely
digress.
He should be. And so here is where we get into a numbers game, because again, you're going to take up the mantle for Reggie Wayne because of your ties to Miami, and you have no issue with other worthy players being championed by their fan bases. But I wonder what the logistics, like if we could come to something close to a consensus of these guys should be in the Hall of Fame as of right now, whether the actual process and number of candidates that can be nominated by anyone or voted on by the committee itself even comes close to that number. I wonder if the number should be extended in regards to number of now, of course, they don't want to induct 17 guys in July, because then that takes away from the attention to each individual member. But there seems to be a bit of a numbers backlog, as you alluded to off the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get it. It's not, you want it to be special in each iteration and not just, okay, there are all these worthy candidates, so we're going to let everybody in and then trickle in a couple. Like, you want it to be gradual and everything. But it's a test of faith and perseverance, I guess, at this point. I believe that he is a Hall of Famer. I believe that Reggie Wayne is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame and recognized for his Hall of Fame career. It is just going to maybe take a little bit of time. And we've seen, Sterling Sharp. We've seen other guys previously. I didn't look at the entire list, but I'm sure that, people in the chat, you're thinking right now, oh, this guy waited, or this guy waited, or this guy waited. It's not a unique situation, but it doesn't make it comfortable either. So, yeah, and then we'll see, about Frank Gore, like I said, coming up next year with his first year of eligibility. Again, I do not believe that he's a first round or first ballot Hall of Famer. But, when you're the, number 2, number 3 overall or all-time rusher in NFL history, you're a Hall of Famer. Period. The end. It might take a few years, though, but I don't necessarily think that changes the fact.
I'm going to divert very quickly again before we continue the Reggie Wayne conversation, because I know what player got my son and I started was CC Sabathia, a first ballot Hall of Famer. I love CC Sabathia. I'm an Indians fan. Loved him. Got my kids CC Sabathia jerseys.
Yeah.
So my son, as soon as he mentioned the Hall of Fame ballot, I said, "Oh, I missed it. Well, who?" And I went, "CC Sabathia is a first ballot Hall of Famer." I said, "No, he's not. He shouldn't be." My son's like, "Absolutely, he should." We looked into the numbers. I convinced my son. He's like, "Yeah, he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer."
Right,
Now
exactly.
with a
A Hall of Famer.
374 career ERA, goodness.
Right, yeah.
You know,
First ballot, no. Hall of Famer, I believe, yeah. And also, whichever asshole didn't or intentionally did not vote for Ichiro to
yeah,
keep him from being unanimous.
yeah,
There's a similar, like, I think it was the same dude did the same thing last year for somebody. And I'm like, you know what? Just take your ballot away. Like, if you, no, I'm sorry. Because, like, yeah, you want to be like, oh, well, like, nobody can ever be unanimous. Like, it just, yeah, it's asinine that there are people and like, we're like, what are you proving? You know what I mean? Like, it just,
yeah.
whatever. Anyways, so
Yeah,
it,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's dumb.
yeah.
And
So Reggie
again,
Wayne,
I'm not going to stay on baseball, but I could
right?
forever. And you would enjoy the conversation because I'm
Oh,
going down this
I'm with you.
list, and I was like, this seems so arbitrary.
Hmm.
Like there are dudes that okay, they got kicked off the ballot, and it's like I'm not saying they're a
Hmm.
slam dunk Hall of Famer, but Kenny Lofton, my anyway, we'll get back to football here. What makes football
Yeah.
difficult for me, Cam, other in comparison to the other two major sports, I'll leave out hockey because my knowledge base isn't there. But there are different positions in baseball and basketball, but everybody does the same thing. Everybody hits, fields, throws.
Hmm.
Everybody shoots and scores, passes, dribbles, rebounds,
Rebounds,
etc.,
plays, defense. Yeah.
assists. So there's such a similarity in positions, but to be comparing offensive linemen to wide receivers to linebackers to it's just and I think that there should be some type of equal distribution of five offensive linemen to one quarterback. I don't think that that should be that extreme,
Mm.
but it's, I don't think too many people out there excluding diehards from that particular fan base are clamoring that their offensive lineman was left off the ballot or was not inducted into the Hall of Fame, except for very hardcore people, because there are no stats to go
Mm.
to at that particular position. But there's obviously snubs at every position to some
Mm.
extent. But that's the element with football that I think makes it very difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's reasonable. So, I mean, your thought is reasonable. I still, at this point, don't think it's reasonable that Reggie Wayne continues to be snubbed. But one day they will get their acts together and truly and duly acknowledge his greatness. I see you laughing because I know what's going on the screen.